since we are a close-knit community of allies and people from community, and it's a Pride Month. I hope all of us had a great month. I mean, it's not about just one month. We definitely um, we have to celebrate the whole year together. But just in the month of June, we always have a lot of candidates come on board and work with us from the community, and we do help our candidates with ROMBA fellowships year on year. We've been doing that for the past 5 years. So we wanted to elaborate on that and have you join us today so that we can talk about it in a little more detail and see which schools potentially you can target. How can you make your essays outshine, and how can you potentially bag bigger scholarship just because of the community that you're coming from, and how can you leverage that in your applications. So I'm Paridhi, co-founder of MBA and Beyond. I'm here with Shantanu, founder of MBA and Beyond, also an INSEAD alum from 2017 batch. I'll hand over the mic to Shantanu to have a little introduction about him, and then we can kick off the session soon after.
Right. Thank you, Paridhi, and welcome everyone over here. Welcome to our another episode of Hunger Games, where you get to learn more from us, and we would love to share as much as we can. Like Paridhi mentioned, I'm the co-founder of MBA and Beyond. I'm an NCR grad 2017 December batch, and I've actually helped a lot of applicants like you get to the top-notch P schools and bag your ROMBA scholarship. So yeah, I'm pretty happy to be here and would love to answer questions. Over to you, Paridhi.
All right, so I think we can begin with a few questions that we've received and then as we are going through the session, if there are any questions that come on in your head, please feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hands, and we're happy to see your faces and listen to your voice and answer the questions as we go. So just before we start talking about ROMBA, what ROMBA really is, reaching out MBA, I think Shantanu, probably we'd like to understand how can we safely and authentically talk about ourselves that we belong to, the LGBTQ plus, or we come from the community, and how should we talk about it in our application, from our personal perspective.
Right. So I guess, guys, the first thing is to, if you're hiring consultant or lecture consultant, no, right? I still remember my first applicant. It actually took her, or rather, I would say, it took me a month to make her comfortable enough, for her to let me know this. But I think now, this was like 5 years ago. But I think now the environment is more conducive overall. We have also helped a lot. We have helped applicants a lot in terms of making it a very safe environment. And no one is here to judge anyone, right? There's no point of judging. We are here just with a single objective, which is to get you an admit. I think the most beautiful way of bringing this out is not making it as the theme. This shouldn't be a theme, right? But it should revolve around the narrative that we are bringing up, and how you, being a part of the LGBTQ plus community or an ally, right, have really contributed towards this. And we can show social leadership coming out of it. We can also show individual contribution through this. So there are multiple ways, but one thing to be sure of is just to not make it a central theme.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Shantanu. So just to talk about it as an extension of what Shantanu said, you should feel comfortable and safe to be sharing it with schools. Schools do not absolutely look at it as as something that you're trying to point out just to gain some brownie points, but they really want you to be as authentic as possible in your application. That's there. Second, you may want to some of us also think that whether we should talk about it or not. So yes, talk about it, because it also positions you well. The advantage of it, that it segregates you from the pool that is applying, Indian males, Indian females, for example, or males and females from a certain continent, for example. So it will help you definitely differentiate yourself. So do not let go of it, because it's a great differentiator. And business schools are not only looking at your professional life struggles, they are also looking at your personal style life struggles, whether it's at work or in a certain cultural setting that you grew up in. That always brings in more content to talk about in your application and more meaning to your personality when it comes to positioning yourself, as a resilient leader or something. So you will realize that you will be able to bring out a lot more values when you authentically talk about this aspect of your life in your applications. um, in addition to all everything, like how you should be bringing out, if you got any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, there's one fellowship. I mean, most of the schools out there are going to, of course, have a strong community. Some of the schools I can name, like Columbia, Duke Fuqua. I'm sorry, guys, just yeah, Wharton. These schools, they offer specific fellowships and scholarships for people from the community. Apart from that, there's an external fellowship that you can apply for and you can become a part of. It's called Reaching Out MBA, which is ROMBA. And we strongly advocate for this fellowship, because beyond the fellowship itself, or beyond the monetary support that you get, I mentioned Wharton as well, Nachiketa. So yeah, beyond the support, that you will get from the school, you will also be able to become a part of a close group community that organizes treks for various, let's say, a Silicon Valley trek or various other treks. So yeah, I think you should definitely be able to consider applying to as many fellowships and scholarships as possible. Romba being definitely one of those, because when you're coming from the community. Now, building upon Romba, a question for you, Shantanu. For Romba, for all of us to gain scholarship or fellowship, which is minimum of 20K, and it can go up to 100K or maybe even more than that for stellar candidates. Trying to understand, do we need to bring out stories or examples of some sort that we were able to contribute to the community in some way, or is it just sufficient that we are from the community and we want to contribute to the community after we move to the US, or let's say after we go to school, for example? Why am I asking this? Because most of the people that I see here, I believe they're from India, except for one or two that I know. And sometimes it becomes difficult for us to come out in the country and then have sufficient examples to support. I mean, I've personally spoken to a few candidates, and they struggle with the fact that how should we talk about it, that we've given back to the community, if we weren't that free to be doing that. So yeah, question on that, Shantanu, if you can elaborate on your thoughts.
Right. So to answer this question, I mean, I think the first thing that we have to ask is like who's eligible, right, for the program. And so it's open to the LGBTQ plus community and the active allies. Now, so guys, I mean, eventually, competition is relative, it's never absolute, right? So if we are talking about that the other person is writing a better application than me, so what does a strong candidate mean over here is the one who's demonstrated a meaningful impact in the LGBTQ plus community. She can showcase leadership potential, and commitment to DEI. I do understand that the DEI department in US, we all have heard news, sort of got disrupted, but still, we're going to go ahead um, with this, where we are still going to demonstrate and showcase the commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Simultaneously, good academic and the professional record is also going to help you. Right now, do I really need to showcase something that I've done already, or should I, mention that I'm going to do it later? So try to see any scholarship as an investment on you, right? So, and now think from the perspective of an investor. Who are you going to believe? Who are you going to give money to? Like someone who has said, "I've done something similar already, so then I'm also going to do it in the future," or someone who is saying that I'm only going to do it in future, right? I mean, though I tried, I couldn't, but I'm going to do it in future. So this is exactly where the concept of competition that I mentioned in the beginning comes in. If there are people who have done impactful work for the community, then if we are if you as applicant are not able to showcase such a thing, then you got to offset this somewhere. But to conclude, Paridhi, to answer, I think it is important to showcase the impact an applicant has had.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Shantanu. So I understand that some of us might not be able to bring in, bigger impact than the others. So it's also okay for us to, reveal to the AdCom how you were struggling to, not come out to be able to bring out a bigger impact. And that's understandable from AdCom perspective. But you need to work with someone who knows how to showcase this in your application, because this can become a little tricky when you talk about it. There are some frameworks that you need to follow. With MBA and Beyond, we've got a lot of senior consultants including Shantanu, who worked with a lot of people from the community. Every year we do. And then there are three consultants we've got on board who are alums of M7 schools, and they are from the community. So they've been on both the sides, like they've been to the school as a community member, and then of course they are really supporting the cause, and they are mentoring candidates who are coming from the community trying to apply to some of the top business schools. So try to figure out what your narrative is going to look like, especially when you've not done something that's huge and impactful, and how to really showcase that in your application. That is going to become a key part of your narrative. Let me take up some questions before I move on to the questions that we received earlier. So, okay, the schools, I can name some of the schools that are, where you can find big scholarships, and the opportunity is great while the community is strong. NYU Stern, LBS, Columbia, Berkeley Haas, INSEAD, UCLA, Stanford, Howard, Fuqua, Wharton. These are some of the schools, to name a few, where ROMBA scholarships are given massively, and also they've got some internal scholarships and fellowships. If you will browse through the websites, schools websites, you will be able to see. Can we also talk about Indian? Yeah, so we're not sure about Indian universities. We don't Indian colleges, B schools. We have not dealt with them. But yeah, you can check with ROMBA, you can check with individual schools.
As of my knowledge over here, guys, Indian B schools as of now don't. They are
Yeah.
approximately 50-55, or probably more than that, a little more than that. B schools providing it globally, like US, Europe. But as far as I know, none of the Indian B schools do.
Yeah. I will put the list of schools that I just mentioned in a bit when Shantanu speaks. While he's speaking, then I would. So the next question that we've received would be, what makes a B school truly LGBTQ friendly, inclusive, beyond just marketing? So Shantanu, are there any key things that, when you work with candidates that, especially when we're helping them pick schools, are there any key things beyond the diversity, equity, and inclusion that we look for in a school that we should help candidates apply to while we're helping them select their schools?
Yeah, a few of the schools that I have seen applicants generally picking up, for example, Fuqua. Fuqua, I think Fuqua and Ross State, they sit on the top of the list. And also INSEAD for that matter. And one of the biggest reasons is the strong community that they have. Also the alum base that they have, and the sort of networking events, treks that the school organizes, right? Um, I think what the question, the way the question is put up is to unmask and say that whether the school is just saying they're LGBTQ friendly or they really are, right? The best way to identify this is always to reach out, um, the alumni, and you would always have ambassador of the LGBTQ plus club for that specific B school, and it's always important to speak to them. You also try to see, do you guys align or not, um, with what school is doing. And by the way, guys, I mean, these schools, they have flavor of the year, and the flavor keeps on changing every year. Like this year it's going to be something else, and next year it's going to be something else. But simultaneously, I think this is by speaking to the current students and speaking to the ambassadors and also the other committee members in the B school, and asking them that how does the flavor of the year align with the community? How is the school helping? Like is the school helping continuously? Right? For instance, we know that ROMBA fellowship. So let's call it fellowship rather than just scholarship because it actually gives you beyond money, right? By money, I mean the funding that you receive. So this particular fellowship, schools also encourage students to attend different conferences, webinars, and also there are a lot of companies which um, sort of give you placements even before the placement season starts. So how much is school active in it, right? Because placements, and for example, like McKinsey can say that, yeah, we are ready to hire, but school also needs to play a huge role. The placement cell of the school needs to play a huge role over here. So how much is school active in terms of whatever ROMBA fellowship offers? How much can you get at that B school? I think this ratio should be a way to identify what schools you should apply to and what schools are more community favorable than others. I hope I've answered this question.
Absolutely. Thanks, Shantanu. I've got a question that I received in my DM, so I'll read it out loud. It might be useful for other candidates as well. We may not have the right or wrong answer. We may not have the right answer to this, but yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts, Shantanu, on this. As a trans man whose legal documents have not been updated yet, I would like to understand what arrangements the university can make to use my preferred name across academic, administrative, and campus life settings. Additionally, I would like to know how the university can assist in incorporating my preferred name on campus ID cards, email addresses, class rosters, and other internal systems to ensure it reflects my authentic identity and helps create a respectful and inclusive environment.
Mm.
So I mean, Shanta would love to know your thoughts, but I can share my thoughts for whatever little bit I
Yeah.
assume you could do. You could definitely share this with the business schools, but like we are allies, so we've got friends. In an ideal world, I can talk about my personal experience that we've always seen, taking such a major step in life, which is like a B school where your identity is going to come across as absolutely new person. When we're going over to the other side, it's best to do it when you're there. That's the best I can put it out there because it's going to be easier for you to integrate and really manage the identity out there when you are joining or you're starting your business school. Otherwise, I'm sure business schools are very accepting of the fact and they will help you update the documents later as well as they get updated across all your whatever identity documents that you've got. Those are my thoughts. But Shantanu, do you have any thoughts or suggestions on this particular case?
Right. So this particular case has two sides to it. One is the identity, right? And the other is the admin work which is supposed to be done, right? Uh, I'm 100% sure that the B school would help you with the identity aspect of it, right? But as far as the admin aspect is concerned, um, like I remember they put my name for what was there on passport, you know. So for the admin, and also because your visa is also going to be by the same name, right? Um, it's a tricky question on the admin front, uh, guys. Honestly, I don't have an answer for it at the moment. That how a trans man who hasn't had the name changed in the documents until now, where and then would like to have the changed name during the MBA, right? Again, like I said, as far as the identity is concerned, I don't think that's going to be an issue. But the admin work over here, guys, I mean, it's not just with the B school; it could be with any other organization, institution as well. But I think you should ask the B school admins over here or the adcoms. They would have the right answer for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Shantanu. So we have worked with candidates who move, yeah, like who have had the documents updated, two of them in the past. But yeah, like while you're in the journey, how you can navigate, I think schools are the best to advise on this because if we would have had the experience, we would have definitely shared, but we haven't had that specific experience, how to get the journey updated as you're applying. We've got another question. How confidential is the information or story we share with the AdCom? Can we count on them to keep personal information like sexual orientation confidential? Especially, we are not out in the open at present. Shantanu, do you have
It's
thoughts on
pretty
that?
confidential. It's
Yeah.
pretty confidential. They can't just let your essays out, first of all. Even let's say you're selected for the interview, there are a lot of these schools that are going to ask you, are you comfortable sharing the essays with the interviewer? You have an option over there, you know. And as far as the sexual orientation is concerned, um I think almost every B school has another option I'd prefer not to say. So if you're not come out, then you can use that option. But still, whatever you put in over there, or whatever you put in over here, they don't reveal information. They just simply don't.
All right. Thanks, Shantanu, on that. Then we'll go back to some questions that we'd received. All right. Let me just see. We'll come back to the newer questions here in a bit. Shivam, meanwhile, how do I identify Progi? I think we've kind of already touched upon it, but it's an extension of the previous question that we were talking about how to pick schools. Now it's about how do I identify programs that align with my personal and professional goals as an LGBTQ plus applicant. So I think now the question has been changed from, identifying the ones which are friendly, but the ones which align more with the goals. I think this has to be the same approach that we use for every candidate and how we do. But Shantanu would love to learn how to choose schools based on the personal goals and aspirations, personal and professional goals.
Right. I mean, over here, apart from whether the school is friendly, like community friendly, there's another angle that you really need to see whether the goals that you want to achieve are achievable through that school, right? So that is one of the biggest thing. And I think what you should do is you should check each school's LGBTQ plus resources. You should try to see what sort of students club they have, right? um, do they have strong DEI support, and do they have like inclusive campus culture? How do internships uh, go over there? How do final placements go over there, right? And eventually, guys, you got to align your career goals, right? I mean, if a school is good in producing product managers, but you want to be consultant, right? Obviously, then it might not go well. So, but having said that, these days, consulting and product management, marketing managers, finance, right? Almost all the B schools got this, right? So at least the top 20, top 40 have got this covered. So it doesn't matter which B school you choose. Then I think the only filter you have is the school aligned with the community. I think this question pretty similar to what we had answered earlier. I don't want to, yeah. If you guys have further question, I'll be more than happy to answer. But I don't think I
Yeah.
have more
Yeah.
to add to it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that, Shantanu. All right, taking up Shivam's question right now, how to become a strong candidate for ROMBA scholarship. I was aware of it before, but I'm not sure if it's applicable to Indians. I'm not a queer activist, and I don't prefer to be one. So, Shivam, long story short, I mean, ROMBA is naturally offered to people who want to give back to the community, in some way or the other, whether you're an ally or you are from the community. If you do not prefer to be one, then you could look out for other opportunities or fellowships, probably not ROMBA, because ROMBA will be making you become an inclusive part of the community, and then you would have to do some activities for ROMBA fellowship thereafter, because that's a part of giving back to the fellowship as well. So if you're not looking for that, then probably you need to look out for other fellowships or scholarships that align with the narrative or the story that you're pitching to the business schools. Aryan wants to know, does ROMBA have any role in the selection process of a school, or only once I get accepted to a school, ROMBA comes in for a financial aid? Yes, that's when it happens, and that's for most scholarships and fellowships. First, you get an admit from the school, and then you could definitely become a part of the community at ROMBA. There are a lot of memberships, etc. But of course, you will only be offered the fellowship once you get accepted to the partner schools. There are on the website of ROMBA, you'll be able to see a list of 70 plus partner schools, that offer the fellowship. So you could make a pick from those schools, the ones that fit your post MBA goals as well. And then as you're putting your application through, when you're talking about it in your essays, I think there'll be an option for you to check the boxes which scholarships or fellowships you're applying for. But yeah, you have to be mindfully talking about your narrative in a way that you are applying for XYZ scholarships and fellowships, so that your essays not just align with the value system of the business schools, but also the values that this particular scholarship or fellowship is looking for. Shantanu, do you have anything to add on this that I've just answered?
No, I think you covered all of it, Paridhi.
All right, we'll move on to Ariman's question. Had started a queer alliance for, alliance for my uni. It wasn't an officially recognized organization under the student body, so no real documentation or admin sign off on its legitimacy for applications can be obtained now, many years later. A lot of this activism happens outside the public eye in India. Do we have any advice on this? So I think the question is more around if there's lack of documentation and, like if there's lack of proof that we can provide, but we've still been an activist, in real life, but just there's no paperwork for it. How do we talk about it in our application, Shantanu? If you've
This
got
is a
any
general
advice.
question, guys. Yeah, this is a general question. This could very, very well be for an entrepreneur, right? I haven't registered my company, but I was working, right? Or for a freelancer, again, I not register myself as a sole prop or anything, right? But I was working. There are ways to tackle this, and this is tackleable. So to answer your question, um, like, can you put it in the application? Yes, you should. You definitely should. You know, and for instance, I mean, pre MBA, the experience, the startup experience that I so pre MBA I had a startup, but the startup experience that I'd shown versus what I actually had on paper was less, right? I mean, um, you don't register a company first and then start working, right? You start working and then there's a point in life where you're like, okay, let's register this, right? Pretty similar to your case as well. You don't register a thing first and then you're like, now I'm going to go out and help people, right? You start helping people, right? And then there's a stage. It can come, it cannot come. You might decide to register it. You might decide still not to register it, but you can even still have an impact, right? So that is fine. But I think it's more about, would you be able to defend it in the interview stage? If you would be able to, you should put it. And we've gotten this multiple times. And the deal is I can't throw an example because it's confidential, right? That's why I thought I'm going to share my entrepreneurial experience over here. But we have done it multiple times.
Thanks, Shantanu. All right, Nachiketa wants to know, I have volunteered for a queer film festival as part of my firm's Give Back program. Is this a good example for showing impact? Absolutely. I think that can also be backed with a recommendation. I think that's definitely a good impact. Nachiketa, good stuff over there.
So
Aryan, is it?
Nachiket over here, and actually for both Ariman and Nachiket, um, less than what have you done, what matters is why have you done it, you know, and how have you done it, right? And what sort of impact, what was the result of this? So looking at both of your questions, though I don't see result as of now. I also don't see what sort of impact you guys have had. So um, you can pick any content, spin it, you know, but if it is impactful uh, and it really contributes to the meaningfulness, it's always appreciated.
Thanks, Shantanu. All right, we've got Aryan's question. Is it true that CPG, consumer packaged goods, FMCG companies in the US do not sponsor US visa? Okay, this is slightly steering away from the topic of discussion today, so I believe we can take that one up towards the end.
But just to
I
quickly answer, I have not heard this, Aryan, that companies are not sponsoring
Yeah.
visa until now. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Shivam, I can make peace with it by finding the niche where I can make difference and feel requires attention. So Romba considers activism in company, pride network, or external, and does it depend on how much impact am I creating? I think Shantanu just answered that question. So I mean, of course, like if you're bringing an impact in the lives of 10 people versus somebody doing it in 100, they won't try to compare it with respect to, but how you showcase it matters definitely is what Shantanu was also talking about. It's about bringing an impact, not just in numbers. I mean, how you talk about impact is also different for different candidates. You sometimes it's quantifiable, sometimes it's not, but you talk about it, that you were able to bring in a huge impact still. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, but I would like to add over here. So, guys, this is where
yes.
the art of storytelling comes into picture, right? Obviously, the result of one is going to be better than the other or going to be worse than the other. But I think at what point in your entire storytelling are you saying that this is the impact I've had? Is I made those 10 people look amazing versus 50 people look amazing, right? Obviously, this is comparable. But if you say that I helped break the status quo or the stereotype that was there in my university, right? But this is far more impactful than just bringing in numbers. Again, um, what I said earlier in the previous question, throwing result is important, but where in the entire storytelling are you saying that this is what is important to me? This is the impact I've had, and that is why I think you should consider me. What are the two lines on top of it, right? How are they connected in the flow? That matters more.
Yeah. Thanks, Shantanu. All right, Yash has a question again around the same. I will repeat this. So, when you're putting your application together and submitting it to the business school, there will be an option for you to tick the various boxes of scholarships that you want to apply for. Now, in an ideal world, when you're considering, so there are some fellowships which require you to put an extra essay or application out there for those. But for Romba, you can always tick the box. Now, when you're ticking the box, it is important that your essays are not, I mean, you could, of course, tick all the boxes, but if your essay or your narrative is not aligned with Romba's expectation of a candidate they want to offer it to, you will not get it. So you have to make sure that you are, when you're talking about it in your essays, when you're telling your story, you're aligning with what Romba is also expecting, along with what the school is expecting. I hope I answered that question now. While of course, when you're looking at various other schools and scholarships, fellowships specific to the community, make sure that you read through if there are any specific essays that need to be submitted. Make sure that you know the deadlines of deadlines of each of the scholarship or fellowship that you're applying for, because most of the deadlines are going to be before R1. Um, so yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, I would recommend if you're going for any of the scholarships, fellowships for the community, please try and be an early applicant for R1. Shivam wants to know so we're steering a little clear from the topic, but it's all right. So, which MBA would you suggest, provided the world is changing so fast in coming years? My plan is for 2028 batch. I'm sure the world is going to bounce back by the time you graduate, which is going to be 2030. But that's it can't keep on going down. But that's my thought. Shantanu, do you have anything to add over there?
Which MBA would you suggest? I mean, Shivam would need a little more information when you say which MBA. Like, what do you mean? Do you mean um, like MBA in marketing, MBA in finance, or you mean MBA in US, MBA in Europe? So the dimension, like when you say which, what is the dimension that we're talking about here? That would be important to answer this question. But in general, the world is changing so fast in the coming years. Um, Honestly, had I known Shivam, where the world is going, I would put my money in and then make millions of billions out of it. I don't, right? Um, the, but still, um, you would see the way, even in tech, you can see that Amazon fired 14,000 managers, right? Google is laying off. A lot of tech companies that are laying off, but in general, healthcare is picking up, right? So if you guys are from the healthcare background, or let's say you don't actually have to be from the same industry, but let's say if healthcare industry is looking for product managers, sorry, marketing managers, right? Um, Even for that sake, education industry is going to stick around, you know. So I think it's actually about seeing what industry is going to pick up, and whatever industry is going to pick up, gradually all the workforce is going to get transferred there, right? Um, and I think, Shivam, what you mean, I meant LLM and ChatGPT is going to replace a lot of jobs. Yeah, wonderful. So indeed, it is going to, it has already started to, right? But this is exactly where there are going to be new companies that are going to pop up, right? And at the moment, what is happening is that the entrepreneurs, they first of all are waiting to not get their businesses disrupted, right? And I think there is going to be, after 2 or 3 or probably after 5 years, there's going to be a time where the entrepreneurs who have survived this particular wave means that they would know what to do next, and not just want to do business, because now with the help of AI, you can actually do multiple stuff, you know, because your productivity is going to go high. But still, um, I don't think that AI can completely replace humans. Um, but indeed, there is going to be an impact for sure, and this is exactly where, like, right now what's happening is S&P Capital. I mean, we could talk a little finance over here to answer this question. If you see S&P Capital, they got covered all the tech, like majority of the tech firms stock in it, right? I think gradually it's going to move away from internet and yeah, the current definition of tech that we have. It's going to move to different industries. Um, I think industry shift is what is something that's going to happen, and they would definitely be jobs, man. It's not that they're not going to be jobs. It's just that at the moment, um, humans in general, or the entire workforce in general, is kind of settling down to see what's happening. You know.
Yeah, thanks, Shantanu. All right, we've got an interesting question, and I mean, I'm gonna ask Neha to drop in some blog articles here as well, because we've done some sessions in the past on job market as well. So Shivam, if you're interested, you can browse through our channel on YouTube. You'll be able to spot some discussions around the job market, the ROI, etc., because this has been a hot topic going on for almost a year now. And we've touched upon it a couple of times. We've also talked about AI and how, AI can or maybe benefit candidates going for MBA at this stage. So yeah, I mean, you will find that valuable. We'll go back and circle back to the point of discussion, which is ROMBA, LGBTQ, and Pride. So the question is, do you think this current political situation in the US, very valid question, and I was expecting that to come through, will negatively impact ROMBA or other LGBTQ plus fellowships? Shantanu, we would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Right. I think, guys, whatever session we are holding, the first part of the question, do you think the current political situation in the US will negatively remain same? And then impacts, the last set of the question changes. Well, guys, no one knows. Last time we had adcoms over here, even they were like, we don't know, right? Um, so that is one of the biggest reasons. What we are doing is we are encouraging applicants to apply more to European B schools than US B schools. Instead of diving into an abyss and trying to figure out what can I change in order so that this abyss becomes like a black hole becomes a white hole. But rather than that, I think you should change the geography and start thinking more towards Canada, Europe, Asia Pacific for that matter. Um, that is the best way to tackle this question. But more than this question, the uncertainty that you have in your mind, Arvind, and it's not just you; it's almost everyone. And it's not just with the LGBTQ plus community. It's again with everyone. You know, Wait and watch is what I would say. Don't put all the eggs in a single basket. Hedge your bets. Even if you're applying to US, apply to other geographies as well.
Thanks, Shantanu. So yeah, I would also say the same. I mean, these are thoughts. There's no stats to back anything that we will say. So we are just hedging our bets. All of our candidates are hedging their bets, and that's what we would advise you to do as well, all of you. And yes, I mean, the scholarships are still there. The fellowships are still there. People are still bagging fellowships. We don't know how the number has gone down. Try to, of course, bag as much as possible from all the schools. And yes, do apply to European schools. Now we want to know for Europe as well, Shivam. So Romba, there's a list of huge list that you can consider applying to. All right. Okay. So so that's Shantanu. Shantanu is saying that judge has provided 45K GBP scholarship as one of the highest
Which
for
is
a
a
Romba,
lot. Yeah,
which
which
is
is a
a lot.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just to help you all understand if you're targeting this year, I mean, I would first of all like all of you to raise your hands to help me and Shantanu understand which of you are considering applying for Romba Fellowship and applying this year for round one or round two. If you guys are all right, Nishkarsh is two. Interesting. Okay, and you guys, I'm assuming you're ready with your scores, everything is ready. It's just that you have to start working on your applications, or you've already started working on your applications. You can drop that in the chat. Thanks, Nishkarsh. So, all right, 3 candidates are applying. I'm sure like the next batch will have a lot to learn next year when we're applying from you guys. Okay, score, yes. So, and you guys are definitely looking at only US schools. I mean, again, please consider Shantanu's suggestion strongly of hedging your bets if you've not considered that. Think about it, do your research. Happy to have a chat with you if you need to diversify your schools where you're applying to is something that I would like to offer. Both me and Shantanu are available for a quick chat if you need after this session, tomorrow, day after, over the weekend. Second, make sure that you align with ROMBA. And if you're looking to work with MBA and beyond, we are offering, I mean, we always offer free scholarship ROMBA help to all our candidates. So you are welcome to come on board. When we're doing your narrative building, it is going to be specifically aligned towards ROMBA so that we can bag as huge a scholarship or a fellowship from ROMBA as possible. Like Shantu mentioned, one of the candidates, 45K from Cambridge Judge, but we also know candidates in Fuqua and Ross who bagged huge scholarships in the past. I think Fuqua did offer close to a 60K USD to one of our candidates back in the day, 2 years back or so. So make sure that you are an early applicant. Make sure that your narrative is aligned with Romba. And if you're looking for help, we are always here. If there are no more questions, I'll just take Ariman's question as the last question and then we can wrap up the session. Ariman saying queer issues are mainstream and polarizing political issues, especially in the US. Yes, with the current political climate, are there any chances for adcoms in schools in, say, southern US not being sympathetic to impactful stories about queer issues? Okay, first of all, we mentioned a very wrong keyword over there. You coming from the community, and when you're talking about your story and telling your story to AdCom, your objective is not to gain sympathy. That is, please. So I'm glad that you pointed that out, Ariman. So you have to be very clear on the fact whatever story you're telling, it does not have to be with an objective to gain sympathy. Shantanu can elaborate on that a little more. How should you bring your narrative out in light? I know there is a very thin line, but you have to be extremely careful about it. Shantanu, do you want to touch upon that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it has something which again, we've touched upon earlier as well. Um, Sympathy doesn't work because, I mean, try to see from the Indian perspective, where I've seen applicants writing that my father used to go for work walking like 6 kilometers and blah blah. This is what he has built, my mother has built, and now I'm doing this. So don't spend words on sympathy, guys. I think the tone should be more about that I'm the deserving one, rather than can you please take me, question mark, right? um Cheating doesn't help, right? I think it's more about how much metal you can prove, right? That I'm the one who is deserving enough for this particular thing. And by the way, I'm also from the community. I've done this for the community, right? Not that I'm from the community, please take me, but it's more about, see, I've done this, blah, blah, and blah. And I also plan to do bigger things, right? And then simultaneously, I'm also doing great. And I mean, we've had applicants from BCG, Bain, who've really achieved good amount of stuff being from the community, right? Sales head at Oyo, you know, I'm not gonna name anyone. Sales head at Oyo grew significantly in like just 4 years. Um, Very, very strong person, very strong person, you know. Yeah, and we've also had like other applicants where, but none of the applicants, there's no place. So the tone matters a lot. And at least when the application, when they go out from MBA and beyond, our tone is more about, hey, I'm gonna write this way. Do do you as school want to write along? Because I'm gonna do it, right? And so like now it's up to you. Would you want to miss out on me? You know. So I think that's the tone. Again, not being arrogant, but um bragging modestly, you know. That's the tone that we want to go ahead with, rather than I really need this, please.
Yeah. Thanks, Shantanu. So thanks for pointing that out and thanks for clarifying, Ariman. I understand that, yeah, of course, your objective was like, should you be concerned about political views? So like we'd already mentioned that in, the previous discussion that we were having, we don't know. That's why you should hedge your bets because even the ad comms are not 100% sure about it. And we had them join us in the last coffee session we hosted, not specific to this, but a lot of questions similar to this came up, and the answer was we don't know. So, assumption is that things are not going to remain the same, of course. At least for the job market, we can be sure that, things are going to turn around in the next 2 to 3 years, 100% for the US, and potentially 1 to 2 years for Europe. But how the funding will be impacted this year, or let's say in the coming year, that we are not sure of 100%. Okay, got it. That's that. And then we are going to take up the last question. Okay, Shivam's question, I'm happy to take this one. How can an MBA add value if I am already in Big Four banks at a good role? I want to reason out myself. I reason myself out. I just don't want it to be a trophy. Fair enough. Don't go for it. It's an expensive bet.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, Shivam, we're not here to convince you that you should do MBA.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
if
If
you
you're
don't
not
think so, don't
convinced,
do it. Yeah,
don't do
and you
it. I
should
mean,
be convinced from within. Yeah, honestly, that that's something we don't do at all.
yeah. Also, like MBA is not, I mean, if you're not 100% convinced, I wouldn't advise anybody to take all that kind of money and put into an MBA if you're not 100% convinced. It's an expensive bet you're placing. So be 100% sure, and maybe more than 100% sure from within, not just, to prove it to someone, but also to feel it from within that I want to go get this degree because it's an expensive degree. And you are going to be stuck in the loop of, you're going to take some loan, you're going to be making money to pay off the loans for the next 2.5 years. You don't want to be stuck in it for something that you really don't want to do. So yeah, ask yourself. Okay, so we still have more questions coming up, taking that one up. What about the person who's reading my essay is homophobic and not queer friendly, and their biases come in between of my profile? What about the person who's reading my essay is homophobic? And yeah, same question. Paste it twice. Shantanu, do you have thoughts on that?
It's exactly where B schools they kind of improve, um, the quality of outcomes. I mean, if that's the thing, then in first place, the entire outreach program, right, or the DEI program is not going to be in place. So you can safely say that this is not the case. And if it happens, Taman, if it happens, then I think it's just your luck. But no, I'm just kidding. It doesn't happen these days. It doesn't happen. So don't have to worry about it. I know I understand it's a fear inside. Um, and I do understand that uh, how things in India are, but they're not the same outside, right?
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Shantanu.
Yash, Arvind.
Yes, I think we're done with the sessions. I'm glad you guys found it useful and happy to have a chat for anything if you guys want. If you want, like, we should have a one-on-one. If you want to have a one-on-one with Shantanu, happy to offer you that. Thanks, everyone. Have a really nice application season and hope to hear good news from all of you that you bagged some big scholarship.
Cheers, everyone. Bye bye.
Night. Cheers. Cheers. Bye bye.